And yet, for some reason, when Israel does it to Palestine, nobody dares say anything.
Well, I mean, plus, I mean, this isn't good for Jews. I mean, to have all the Arabs in the world hating them. I mean, look at the conflict we've already seen in Israel. And the United States and Israel just get more and more hated, and we're bankrupt, and everything's falling apart. And all the establishment seems to want to do is launch even bigger wars. And what shocks me is Israel's on record saying they want to expand out. And then if you talk about it, people deny it's even going on. So I've done all this research in the past. I'm going to pull a bunch of this together this week. I know you are as well. And I'm going to come in here and do a presentation on this because, I mean, if you think we got wars now, folks, imagine a map like this. I mean, it's just hard for me to deal with and hard for me to even get my mind around this. I want to go to calls in a moment, Mike. Can you stay with us about 20 minutes to the next hour?
Certainly.
Okay, good, because we can start taking calls here in about 5 minutes. There's enough, plenty of time for those. Obama. He spearheads with Rahm Emanuel, who they bragged is the architect of the bailout. That's in Nancy Pelosi's own words. Rahm, the architect. Of course, he's a front man for the big banks. They're coming in. They've already got an unlimited blank check to steal any amount of money they want. Congress isn't even allowed to look into it. There's now been congressional hearings where the Federal Reserve says we won't tell you where the money went. Now the new bailout will create this new international bank with no oversight, with the power and regulatory power over U.S. banks, so they can come in and snatch up the real banks and insurance companies. And then last week, Obama was on TV. I was watching this in my hotel room Friday night, angry, going, how dare the people in the bailout steal this money for bonuses? I want an investigation, but he named no names. I mean, this is like the fox caught with the feathers of the pigeons or the feathers of the chickens sticking out of its mouth, and it's going, I'm going to do something about this, with chicken blood all over its chest. You know, it's got a bib on and a knife and fork, and there's dead chickens laying around, or it's got a chicken in its mouth, and it goes, I'm going to do something about that darn fox. I mean, do they think the public is that dumb? So your analysis of this new banker takeover.
Well, yes, unfortunately, they do think the public is that dumb. As far as this new bank, this new global bank, it's just another reserve system. It's another debt-based institution. It's like the Federal Reserve on steroids. And again, this is what got us into this mess. And we need to get away from this imaginary money economy and get back to a monetary system like we had when the country was set up, which was a fixed unit of value was represented by every single dollar. Dollar originally meant a weight measure of silver, something that had a fixed intrinsic value. And on the basis of that monetary system, the United States built the highest standard of living in the first 100-some-odd years of its history. Then in 1913, we get changed over to this debt-based economy, the Federal Reserve System. Over the course of the next couple of decades, they wipe out any alternative forms of economy, including up to when John Kennedy tried to start an alternative currency system. And as a result of this debt-based economy, everyone talks about where did the money go. It never existed, because most of what they're counting is interest that's owed on the money that was already printed up. But we don't have the new borrowers to borrow the new money, create it, to pay back that imaginary run-up on interest. And then you've got the derivative situation. The problem is the money never existed. It's all bookkeeping rules and regulations that are designed to convince you that you've got to spend the rest of your life working your guts out for the bankers.
And I just want to add, from 1800 until 1913, this country had money that was worth the same amount, and in some cases it even actually gained some of its value or lost inflation. So, I mean, the inflation tax, conservatively at about 15% a year right now, is such an incredible form of theft and such a blight over the convention of savings. And I just want to add that, and this is on record, volume's been written, congressional testimony on this, the private bankers that wanted to bankrupt the U.S. so they could hijack it and set up a central bank, they tried to bankrupt the United States from the 1890s right into 1913. They had all these runs on banks. They staged all these gold and silver runs. And then they advertised for decades, and their battle plans are even public how they did it. Bought up the newspapers so they could then propagandize and said, we'll never have another recession or depression again. And before, those were just localized and only in certain industries or certain areas. They weren't nationwide, so it wasn't a big deal to the average person. They said, let us have central control. You'll never have another depression again. Then they accelerated the money supply in 1913. They bought real assets with it and then popped the bubble they engineered. This is on record by design in 29. And so they do the same thing. Then they give us an income tax. Then they give us the federal control. They expand their power. And now they're making a move much bigger, but globally this time.
And I think the globe is rebelling against that, and that's the real underlying reason between these riots in Greece and Iceland and Ireland and France and all these other places where people are standing up and saying they recognize what's going on. They've seen the guy behind the curtain. They realize it's all a scam that's designed to reduce them to being indentured servants for the rest of their life. And they're fighting back against it. And as I said, I don't understand why we're not seeing it here in the U.S. yet.
Well, Mike, I can pull up the mainstream news articles. I'm sure you've seen them where they've proposed putting serotonin reuptake inhibitors or the Prozac class of drugs, which are also fluoride-based, for those that don't know, in the water supply. They just manipulate the fluoride molecule, according to the scientists we've interviewed. And for some reason, there are much higher levels of these drugs in water supplies where it shouldn't even be there. You know, these are water supplies, many of them. I've seen the articles where there isn't runoff from sewage from humans, putting it into the sewage system. So why is it there in high levels, Mike? You think an Easter bunny put it there?
Well, I'm not sure, but I know you can't go in and examine the water systems these days.
Government loves us, don't they? They really care about us a lot, folks. Drink lots of tap water. You see all the TV ads saying, drink tap water, it's safe, it's good. They also tell you corn syrup's good. It's filled with mercury, of course. Stay with us.
Do you understand how dark it is? How far down the line we are? How late it is?
You know, I mentioned that 90% of baby formula has melamine that attacks their brains and kidneys and every other organ. I mentioned this a week and a half ago. I got emails not believing it. It's in hundreds of publications. Study finds high fructose corn syrup contains mercury. Half of 55 popular brand name foods, breads, cookies, everything with high fructose corn syrup has mercury in it, and they don't know why, because it's not involved in the manufacturing at any point. It's being added, ladies and gentlemen. They have found it is the ultimate chemical weapon, heavy metal, because other heavy metals just create plaques. Mercury continues to kill. Seen the movie Alien? When it drips, the acid just keeps burning through the hull of the ship. That's what it does electrochemically. Bam, 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 bam. Chain reaction. Just keeps killing, keeps killing, keeps killing. You're brain damaged. I'm brain damaged. I would have been genius level. I'm just average intelligence. I have chemical lobotomy. And I'm not joking when I say that. This is chemical warfare. We have it in the UN zone documents. We have it from top globalists 80, 90 years ago saying they were going to do this. And as scary as it sounds, Mike Rivero, why do half the brand names have high levels of mercury in them when it's not even supposed to be there? Mike, is it just again, is an Easter bunny putting it in there?
Well, it is a mystery why that's going on, and mercury is very contraindicated. If you've ever heard the expression "mad as a hatter" from the Alice in Wonderland books, it's actually based on a real fact, which was that hat makers would use mercury to prepare the felt to make hats, and over time it would drive them insane. And so mental illness just sort of became synonymous with being a milliner. And we get mad as a hatter from that. So when we find mercury is being put into products, like the big stink over mercury-based preservatives in vaccines and a possible link to autism, and the companies like to use it because it solves their immediate problems economically, and the long-term problems are somebody else's issue to have to deal with.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold for your IRA? The financial industry refuses to recognize the value of real hard assets for your retirement. The truth be told, gold and silver has outperformed paper investments like stocks, bonds, and CDs, yet no word about IRAs. Perhaps the financial institutions want to maintain control of your assets by keeping you in paper. If you'd like to take a look at gold for your retirement, call 800-686-2237. Don't get left behind by rising inflation and low return on your paper investments. Call 800-686-2237. Make sure that you secure your future. Call 800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.